I'd like to make a disclaimer up front and in the beginning. This is not an atheist rant because I'm not an atheist. But what I have stated for a very, very long time, the person that you are saying is God in here is not God, is not the creator of the universe. One of the things that they like to say in church, God is good all the time. He's the same. In the beginning, he's the same as he is now today. He's never changed. Well, let's look at what this biblical text has to say, or rather, what God has to say. Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Now let's think about this for a minute. You are an all-knowing, all-loving God, creator of a universe, and literally can create planets with just spoken word, create living things with spoken word, but all of a sudden, you can't say slavery don't exist. You can't say, I don't want slavery to ever exist in my universe. I cast it out of my universe. The thought will never appear in anyone's mind. You can't do that? So what does it mean? What this means is, you gotta remember, the Bible was written by what? People, human beings. They're trying to say that this thing was orchestrated by the God that created the universe. No, it's much deeper and darker than that. Now, the last time I checked, fear and love don't really go together. They just don't go together. My hypothesis is that most people become religious, in this particular case, Christianity, because they want to protect their asses. They don't want to burn in this quote unquote lake of fire. But why would this all-knowing and all-loving God want you to be fearful of your master and accept this slavery? But this is the creator of the universe. And you guys wonder where all this slavery came from. You think white people invented slavery? White people didn't invent no damn slavery, because these people who were doing this foolishness were not white. Romans 6:16. Don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey? Whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. They just love slaves in this book, don't they? And they want you to be damn obedient. You better be obedient. 1 Corinthians 7:22. And remember, if you were a slave when the Lord called you, you are now free in the Lord. Oh, how nice of you. I can still be a slave, but as long as I'm calling on the Lord and believing in the Lord, I'm the slave in the physical body, but my mind can be free, but my body can never be free. And if you were free when the Lord called you, you are now a slave of Christ. Oh, why thank you. I can now be a slave of Christ as well. Come on. This is complete foolishness. If you think this is the creator of the universe doing this, if you really truly in your heart believe that sincerely, then you've been fooled to the highest level.
Many claim that to be a slave of God is to serve God in the spiritual sense, a state of obedience that is self-inflicted. But let's consider the historical context. The Mesopotamian texts, which predate the Bible, offer striking similarities to biblical narratives. For instance, the story of Noah in the Bible parallels Mesopotamian flood accounts. In the Epic of Atrahasis, Enki warns Atrahasis of a flood planned by Enlil, instructing him to build an ark, much like the biblical Noah. Also in the Atrahasis, humans were created as workers, literal slaves for the gods. Stephanie Dalley, a British scholar of the ancient Near East and fellow of the Institute for Ancient and Middle Eastern Studies, explains that the text states, "Create primeval man so that he may bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods." Atrahasis Epic, Tablet 1. This passage implies that humans were made to relieve the gods of their labor. Similarly, in the Enuma Elish it states, Enki created mankind, on whom he imposed the service of the gods and set the gods free. Enuma Elish, Tablet 6. These stories suggest that biblical terms like slave could reflect literal ancient practices, not just spiritual metaphors. Could this influence our understanding of certain biblical passages? Was humanity engineered as a slave species to toil the earth for their Anunnaki masters? Is there a true God, the creator of the cosmos and everything therein?
I believe that there's a God, and I believe that there's a creator of this universe, because the science proves that we're living in a creation. The science proves that we ourselves are a creation. However, the one in this book, that ain't it. Not even close. What you're looking at here is a hodgepodge of recycled texts and scripts and papyruses from all over the world that have been remixed and remixed again and contorted to be able to utilize to control the masses and collect a lot of money, and also keep a lot of slaves for a lot of free labor, because free labor is really important in ancient times. You know what the Romans used to do? This is even during the Roman Catholic era. In the beginning, when they merged with the Christians and said, look, we're gonna just adopt this Christianity thing because y'all are fighting against us too damn much. Let's just take this and wrap it into our paganism and make it into one religion and collect money from everybody and make them bring us all their offerings and all their fresh harvest so we don't gotta go hunting for food. To bring this stuff to the front steps, your best offerings, we want it because we gotta put that in our storehouses because we hungry and we ain't gonna do no work. You're gonna bring it to us and we're gonna tell you that the blessings are coming from up above. Leviticus 25:44. However, you may purchase a male and female slave from among the nations around you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Again, more collusion with slave masters, more owning of slaves, more approval for purchasing human bodies, human people, sentient beings, for use as you see fit. Ecclesiastes 2:7. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household. So these slaves had babies. I also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before me. This is somebody they're bragging about. Man, I'm breeding these slaves over here, man. Come on now, I'm breeding slaves. This is a piece of cake. This is supposed to be a divine book authored by God himself. If you believe that, that's where you're going with everything. Let's read this. Exodus 21:20 through 21. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their own property. Really? This is God talking. What is this foolishness? Somebody come in my face and tell me that the creator of the universe made this statement, I'm gonna laugh and walk away. And yet millions of people drop to their knees and pray for this stuff. Are you kidding me? What kind of fairy tales are we believing in? What kind of adults are falling for these fluffy stories? If a man walked up to you in your street right now and you and your family and told you something like this, you literally would turn and walk the other way laughing or either running in horror. And yet people are following this thing, and people have used that exact statement to promote and push slavery in the most recent era over black people for the last 400 years. And we still ain't all the way out of it yet, because we got economic slavery, we got the prison system slavery, we got the educational slavery. We're still in the matrix right now with the slavery system. We ain't all the way out of it yet. And we got the mental enslavement, which has really held us back even more for the longest period of time. That's gonna take more, maybe 15, 20 more generations to work out of our DNA and put us in a seriously bad spot. But that one verse I read you was the premise for the majority of the teachings in the slave churches, where the master would sit right there in the church with one person that he ordained to be the pastor, because he can read, only one, and he's gonna read these specific scriptures, especially this one is mandatory reading. Mandatory reading. The slave Bible is in the Library of Congress. You can go check that out. Romans 14:9. For this very reason, Christ died and returned to life so that he might be the Lord of both dead and the living. So now we're going into where people are talking about this return of Jesus. But nowhere in the Bible does it say Jesus is coming back. It keeps mentioning Christ. Jesus didn't say he was going to return. He said the Christ would return. What is the Christ? When you look into, there's been many Christs on this planet. When you look into what a Christ is, it's a level of consciousness. You see, there's some good stuff in the Bible, but what they did was they took the good stuff and they overrode it with a lot of bad stuff, a lot of darkness, a lot of manipulation and agenda, and a lot of propaganda. You gotta be able to discern what's good and what's bad. What is being born again? Being born again is rising up to a higher level of consciousness and looking back on your previous thought process and realizing that you've grown consciously. That's being born again. Not having some pastor douse you in the ocean or throw you in a bathtub or splash water on your baby. Your baby don't even know what the hell's going on. Being born again is rising in consciousness. Christ's consciousness is the highest level. The ancient sages knew this. Jesus Christ was not the first Christ. There was many Christs before Yeshua the Christ. It's a level of thinking and understanding. It has nothing to do with this foolishness that you've been preached and taught. Heaven and hell is a state of mind, and these are your temples. You got to call on the name of Jesus so that you can be saved and you can be born again and you can die and go to heaven. But then here's the other contradiction. If I'm believing and walking in Christ and been calling on the name of Jesus, I'm going to be raptured up into heaven. I'm never going to have to die. So am I going to die or do I not going to die? The Bible says you got to die to begin to enter the gates. And then somewhere else it says you don't have to die to enter the gates. Well, which one is it? Which one is it? Well, let's take a look at that. The rapture doctrine. John Nelson Darby. He added that to the Bible in 1827. That's not too long ago. I mean, that's literally just a couple hundred years ago. The rapture doctrine was added to the Bible as a cliff note. Pastor saw it as a positive thing that can put fear into people and energize the people and can bring in a lot of money. So they made it part of the scripture, became part of the doctrine, but it was a cliff note originally by John Nelson Darby, 1827. There is no rapture. If you've been sitting around kicking your feet up, watching the world burn, thinking, oh, the infidels will be burning in this unlimited eternal fire, and I'm just gonna be swept away off this planet, so I'm not gonna do anything down here. I'm not gonna put any of my energy into these people. I'm just gonna ask for forgiveness and wait for this God to come sweep me away into this magical heaven. You missed the boat. You missed the message. You're so far off, you don't even know what is up and what is down. There's no rapture. There's no magical rapture coming to snatch your body, your spirit out of your body and suck it up into some magical heaven. It's not going to happen. Another man, M-A-N, human being, wrote that, not the creator of the universe, not the creator of the universe. And as I said before, my disclaimer, I believe that there's a God. I believe that there's a creator of the universe. This ain't it. The Gnostics knew that ain't it. 1827, a couple hundred years ago. When was hell added to the Bible? Oh, what do you mean? Hell was added to the Bible? What is he talking about? The lake of fire, the burning lake of fire, the eternal burning and suffering, purgatory. I'm gonna go there if I don't do this. That's why I gotta pretend like I love this stuff so I don't end up in this lake of fire. The fear is driving me to do this religion, and I'm not even aware of it. I'm just trying to save my ass. You know how many Christians come to me and tell me, I'm doing this just in case. The mission is to bring heaven to earth. You missed that message, didn't you? The mission is to do greater things than he. You missed that message, didn't you? You're supposed to even excel and exceed far past what Yeshua's achievements were on this planet, not in any kind of magical heaven, right here on this physical plane of existence. You're supposed to bring heaven to earth. Can you master that right here? Can you love your brother? Can you stop falling for divide and conquer? Can you get the hell out of poly tricks? Can you stop falling for the foolishness and go take a trip towards spirituality and visit inner space so you can expand the outer space and find out who you truly are and the power that's truly inside of you, and find out that you are God walking in the flesh every single day, because the same divine spark that created this universe is inside of your body. What is holding us back from taking our birthright as claiming this planet as our own? Taking back control of this planet from the 100 families that control and run 8 billion people? What is stopping us from taking control of our reality and manifesting the life we want? Religion and polytricks. Those are the two things you guys got going on that are stopping complete advancement of the human race right now, today. Completely pushing separation, division, and racism, mental and physical enslavement. Those two things, religion and polytricks. The two most detrimental things ever put into place on this planet to literally hold mankind back. You remove those two things, we got 99% of our problems solved. I did a video, who's doing all the killing in the Bible. And you know what I found out during my research into that topic? It wasn't the devil. God had killed over 3 million people in the Bible, including his own son. The devil didn't kill anybody. This is crazy. He had killed over 3 million, plus his own son, and the devil didn't kill anybody. That's crazy. Like, think about that for a minute. Who was doing all the killing? But then I came across this verse, Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and I create the darkness. I make peace and I create evil. I doeth these things, saith the Lord. That's God speaking. Won't he do it? God is good all the time. I'm the creator of all the universe. I can literally think things into existence. I can breathe life into rocks and dirt and turn them into living beings. I got a good idea though. These humans are acting up a little bit. I don't know if I can just walk down there and give them a little knowledge, or should I use vitro fertilization into a woman's womb, make her pregnant, let her go 9 months and give birth to a demigod, half mine and half hers, have it grow up, and then when it's the right age, I'll sacrifice it and kill it and slaughter it in front of everybody so I can absolve these humans of their sins. Come on, man. Come on, wake up. I believe that there is actually a God, a programmer that has programmed this matrix that we're living in. We're living inside of a fractal holographic light matrix, a matrix of light. We are completely immersed in it, and thereby not allowing us to detect the fact that we are actually living in a matrix of light. We now know through quantum physics that even our bodies, which appear to be solid, are made of light. Man exists both as a being of light and also as of matter, according to actual peer-reviewed science, not according to Billy Carson. So you can't say, oh, this guy's just making this stuff up, because the quantum physics and the quantum mechanics proves that we are living in a creation. The method of the creation, which I have explained many times, is a fractal holographic matrix of light. We know that by taking an 8th dimensional quasi-crystal in a laboratory setting, which scientists have actually done, it will cast down, when you put it in a particular angle, it will cast down a 4th dimensional quasi-crystal. And when that's positioned in a specific angle, it casts down a sphere, which is the universe that we're living in. So we know that we're living in the shadow of a higher dimension. This is actually real science, not emotions, not opinions, science. Could the God of the Bible be Satan? Let me first start by saying to you guys this, that the creator of the universe, which I believe there is a creator of the universe, because the mathematics and the quantum physics proves that we're living in a creation. We're living in a fractal holographic matrix. It was created by somebody. Somebody programmed this matrix. We're living in a coded program. You know, how you can wrap or can't wrap your mind around it, that's what we're living inside of. And that's a creation created by someone, somewhere on the outside of this realm. I believe that we're living in a creation. I also believe that this divine energy imbued into all the energetic particles that exist in this entire realm, what make up your body and everything else, and that your consciousness is being streamed in from even higher dimensions, because we're not really here. The entity that people are praying to is not the God they think it is, not even close. It's actually multiple gods in the Bible. It's these Anunnaki beings, these people that were written about in the Sumerian, cuneiform, and Babylonian, Akkadian epics. There was gods with an S, and if you find the original translation of the word God, you'll find that in the Bible it's mistranslated to be singular when it's actually plural. Everywhere where you see the word God in the Bible, it's gods with an S. And no, it's not a capital G, it's a lowercase g, because these people didn't create anything in the universe. All they did was manipulate and create havoc here on this planet. They masqueraded as gods, and people believed it because people have this innate thing inside of them that they want to worship. They want to worship something outside of themselves so badly that they will give anyone the level or the title of a deity. Human beings are just one gigantic cargo cult. When a more advanced civilization and group of beings meets up and enacts and engages with a group of beings that are less advanced technologically and spiritually, the less advanced beings will then deify those more advanced beings. They will automatically, instantaneously deify them. Even today, if an alien landed in a spaceship in the middle of town, the town square, A lot of people will drop to their knees and start praying thinking it's Jesus Christ returning, when Jesus never said he was returning. Jesus never said he was coming back. He said the Christ would return. And the Christ existed long before he was even born. It's the Christ consciousness. Before Jesus, there were many Christs. It's a understanding, a level of thinking, a way of ascending to a higher level of knowledge and wisdom and understanding about yourself internally, and then on the outside, the world as a whole, and understanding that there are levels to ascension, and being born again has to do strictly with raising your consciousness to a higher level than it was before. And you will continuously be born again over and over again as you ascend to higher dimensions of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. That's what being born again is all about. If you look at the ancient mysteries, being born again is all about how far you can ascend consciously. And then looking back on that previous level you were at and realizing, wow, I was there. Now I'm here. I learned so much to get to this level. Now there's even another level. And the top level, who knows where that's at? It's a continual process, nonstop. I'm still learning. I'm still growing every single day. Every single day, there's more to learn. There's more to understand. There's more knowledge and wisdom to gain. That's why I love to travel to these places and meet up with these indigenous cultures and these sages and these wisdom keepers and talk to them. Jesus is not returning. The Christ will return. The Christ consciousness. When that comes back in each and every individual person, we will head into a golden age. We will head into a golden age as a species on this planet. It's a level of consciousness that will spread around, and every single person will ascend to a certain level of that Christ consciousness being. That will actually mean the return of the Christ. And it has nothing to do with a person coming back. It has nothing to do with somebody coming back to snatch up the souls that beg for forgiveness and all this other kind of crazy nonsense that was fabricated. None of that stuff. Let's talk about one of the very first craziest scenarios, most sadistic scenarios I've ever read in the Bible. But let's look at this one of the very first things I ever read that really had me scratching my head as a kid. I think I was 3 years old when I was reading this, and so I came across Genesis 22, where God is speaking to Abraham, and he wants to test Abraham, and this is what he does. He says, sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. So Abraham's speaking to God now. They got an open conversation, right? They're having a communication back and forth, two-way conversation. This entity he's talking to is a person that he thinks is a God. I don't think he's talking to some mystical, invisible figure. Then God said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. Can you imagine that? So this person who you worship in and thinking it's the almighty creator and the almighty creator of the heavens and earth and the universe and is all knowing and all love and everything else. And now this person who he calls a he, by the way, because I don't believe God has no gender, but there's a he all of a sudden. He's telling this guy, I want you to take your firstborn son and I want you to kill him in my name's sake. That's what he's telling him. So early the next morning, Abraham got up and sadly saddled his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, this man is following through on this craziness. Tell me this ain't sadistic on both sides. He set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you. So he's lying now. Now he's telling a lie. He's trying to tell his servants, man, we're just going to go over here and pray for a minute and come right back. He ain't doing that. He's getting ready to go murder his own son in the namesake of this fake God. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. So now he's putting the wood on his son. And he himself carried the fire and the knife as 2 of them went together. Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father, yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and the wood are here, Isaac said, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? He don't even know he's about to get murdered by his own dad. He doesn't even know his dad is taking him up there to kill him in the name of his God, with the lowercase g. Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. Again, he's lying again. When they reached the place that God had told him about, Abraham built an altar and he arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything. Now I know you fear God. If you think that that's love, if you think that fear means love, then you don't have no idea what love really is. If you think that the all-knowing and all-loving God, he good all the time, the one that told this dude to go up on the mountaintop with his own kid, his only son, his firstborn, and he loved so much, this guy bounds his son and pulls out the knife and gets ready to slash his own kid's throat in the name of God. Why? You think he did this because he wants to show God how faithful he is? He did it because he doesn't want the wrath of God. You see? That's why God said, now I know you fear me. That is very sadistic and very evil. Very evil. That's an evil thing to do. You see what this God of the Bible does? He preys on fear. He preys on fear. And I do mean a he. Now I'm going to call it a he because the God of the Bible are men. They're actual flesh and blood people. It's not in the creator of any universe at all. And so he's preying on the fear. He's using fear tactics to win people over. And these people, they don't understand that the powers that he has are just high levels of technology and wisdom that he can wield over them. This whole religion thing this dogma is a complete psychosis. And there's people out here just to this very day that will kill you over a religious belief. More people have died on this planet over religious beliefs than any other reason on the planet. More people have died on this planet in wars because of religious beliefs more than any other reason. When you operate in fear, there is zero love. Absolutely zero. None. When you have to manipulate people to make them love you, the reason why the majority of people are going to church and doing all this praying and everything else, and I've had a few Christians tell me this, is because they're doing it just in case. They think that, I better do this just in case heaven is real. Well, let me tell you something. The reason why you're praying and doing all these rituals and everything else and drinking the blood and eating the flesh and all the other craziness is because you yourself want self-preservation. You do not want to burn in this fake lake of fire that doesn't even exist because that was added to the Bible. But you think you're going to suffer for all eternity. So instead of having the suffering, that's where the fear kicks in. Man, I better do this because if I don't, I'm going to face the wrath of God for all eternity. So then what people do is they pretend. I'm calling on the Lord. I love the Lord. It's all about self-preservation. That's the problem. It's all about self-preservation. Let's have a look here. How many people are killed in the Bible? That's the topic of this talk, right? Well, let's have a look. He wiped out all but 7 humans during the flood, killed countless tribes and cities. This is God doing this. He even killed his own son. He loves killing. He killed around 3 million people according to the Bible. So who's doing all the killing in this Bible? Have you read the Bible? Do you know who's ordering all this bloodshed and murder and killing? And if this ordering of bloodshed and murder and killing was to create a better world, look at the state of the world today. I don't think it worked, guys. If that was the ultimate goal, was to kill all these people to make a better future, God killed around 3 million people according to the Bible. And how many people did Satan kill? There's a discretion between their interpretation of the actions between 3 and 10 people. That's what Satan supposedly killed. Between three for sure. There's 3 for sure, but 10. Now, the 10 are interesting because the 7 sons and 3 daughters of Job. But the thing about that killing, if you want to call it that, he does it because God allowed it as part of a bet. There was a wager between God and Satan about this, and Satan won the wager, and so he let him kill Job's sons and daughters. So technically the blood is on God's hands. So when you analyze that and you go, man, it just doesn't make any sense. Who's doing all this killing? Do you think it's the creator of the universe, the all-knowing, all-loving God that creates planets and universes, that transcends time and dimensions, that can create molecules and atoms and all this kind of stuff? Or are you finally wrapping your brain around the fact that it's most likely not that entity, but most likely someone or some people that masqueraded as gods back then and fooled, I mean pure tomfoolery, these people, hoodwinked these people, and got them believing in this information, this entity or these entities, these people were not God at all. They were just normal flesh and blood people with more advanced knowledge and wisdom, and because of that, they were able to rule over people in a way that the people would deify them and pray to them. And then that same tactic that they use in fear to get people to worship them and work for them as like slaves, to get them to kill and slaughter one another, is the same exact teachings that you're getting today and teaching to your kids. It hasn't changed. It's the same thing in the New. This is the Old Testament. Oh, well, let me show you something in the New Testament then. Well, Jesus, he said, I'm an advocate for slavery. Yeah, slaves. Make sure you honor and worship your master like you would honor and worship me. That's in the Bible. That's in the New Testament. And any entity or beings or any writings of anybody who wrote anything about advocating for slavery, I'm totally against that. I guarantee you I'm totally against that. And so what are we talking about here? Who is doing all this killing in the Bible? It's not Satan. The Bible was written from 100 AD to 900 AD by Phoenicians, followers of Hermes. Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. That's who wrote the Bible, and they didn't write a Bible. What they did was they started copying ancient texts from all over the world, remnants of the Library of Alexandria, copying these ancient texts onto different parchment papers and stuffing them inside of vases and jars inside of caves. Over time, between 100 AD to 900 AD, people, explorers and archaeologists, coming across these vases and opening them up, finding all these ancient writings. These ancient writings were copied from, okay, let me translate this tablet onto this writing, onto this parchment paper, and then I'm gonna store it away. And so over the course of that amount of time, 100 AD to 900 AD, that's after the death. Jesus and Paul and Judas and Matthew, they were dead. The Bible wasn't written in real time. That was written long after these people were gone and passed away. So where did this information come from? It came from ancient texts and ancient tablets, recopied onto different parchment papers. And the proof is in the pudding. You can go back and you can find those same exact quotes and statements and words out of the ancient texts. It comes right from there. Some of it copied word for word directly onto these parchment papers. Then later, people who discovered these things, eventually they came together and said, hey, let's make a canonized book out of this. And that's when the Council of Nicaea got together and they started going through and curating what they would put into this canonized Bible and what they would not put into the canonized Bible. And then when they got to a good mix of neuroscience where they knew they could utilize this information to control masses of people, they said, we're going to put this one out right here. Boom. We altered this, we changed that, we mistranslated this by accident on purpose. We changed this around, we put this over here, we moved this around. We took out the part talking about aliens, we took out the part talking about spaceships and UFOs. Okay, so now I think we got something here. We can dominate the planet with this. And then how did this information get spread around the world? How did Christianity make it around this planet? Well, you do just like your father does it, don't you? Apples don't fall far from the tree. God was doing all the murdering and killing, so did the people. The people followed the book of the Bible, letter, word for word, and then what they do, they went around this planet, killing and murdering every indigenous culture. Christianity is literally spread by killing and murder and rape. They slaughtered and killed over 80 million people under the Pope's orders. The museums for the Inquisitions still exist. You can go into Rome and you can go to museums where you see the tools that they would use on people. They would take and go to an indigenous culture. Every continent has been attacked by these people. They go out and every continent you could think of, they show up with the, oh, we're here to bring you the good news. And then the next thing you know, you're getting raped, pillaged. They take the chief of the town, bring the chief to the center of the town, call everybody down. Then they burn the chief or kill the chief or torture him in front of everyone and say, now, you learn our language and you learn our religion or this is going to happen to you. And that's how Christianity got spread around the planet. It didn't get spread by love and
and all the good vibes and all this kind of stuff. When we bring in the gospel and the good news to the planet, no, it got spread by rape, torture, murder, killing. And then after that happened to that first generation, but the second generation and the third generation comes, now they're born right into it. They automatically are into it. That's the new dogma. That's their new belief system. And then they're going to teach it on and on and on and on and on. These people were geniuses, how they put this thing together. Absolute geniuses. It's neuroscience at the highest level. They applied that neuroscience through this text, manipulated it, and used it to manipulate the entire planet, which generates today trillions of dollars globally. And people that are running around here, dropping on their knees and begging for all this stuff, drop down on your knees and weep and beg the Lord to give you this and beg the Lord to give you that. That's not how it works. You haven't read the text, you haven't read the ancient tablets, and you haven't read the parts of the Bible that they didn't corrupt, that they forgot to take out. Like the fact that you are God's, and that Jesus said, you will do greater things than me. The last people on the planet. We're still last against all the other races in terms of where we've grown consciously and spiritually, financially, economically on this planet. We're still in last place. It is a fact. It's a fact. As a complete group, globally, black people are still being sold as slaves in Libya today. $400 a head. When I go to Egypt, I have an armed guard and my head is on a swivel looking for any abductors because Libya is right around the corner. Today, and this is 2022, Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with deep respect and fear. That's the same fear that God was demanding with Abraham, wasn't it? Why do you think they had church? But the master would sit there at the church to make sure that that slave who was reading the book was reading some of these verses, letting them know, hey man, you got to obey you. This is in the Bible. We got to obey these people. We got to worship these people. Serve them sincerely as you would serve Christ. Ephesians 6:5. Christians who are slaves should give their masters full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. If your master is a Christian, that is no excuse for being disrespectful. You should work all the harder. It's easy how they programming you to work hard and be a slave. You should work all the harder because you are helping another believer by your effort. Timothy, and encourage everyone to obey them. 1 Timothy 6:1-2. In the following parable, Jesus clearly approves of beating slaves, even if they don't know they were doing anything wrong. The servant will be severely punished, for though he knew his duty, he refused to do it. But people who are not aware that they are doing wrong will be punished only lightly. Much is required from those whom much is given. They use this all the time. That's a famous quote, but nobody knows that quote comes from the advocation of slavery in the Bible. Nobody knows that. Much is required from those to whom much is given, and much more is required from those whom much more is given. Luke 12:47-48. You didn't know that? That's a famous quote that everyone uses, right? They use it all the time. There's just so much of this going on. So much murder and killing and pillaging in this book, where these gods with an S, who lowercase g, were people, were fighting each other, and they were using humans to do these battles. Kill people who don't listen to priests. Anyone arrogant enough to reject the verdict of another judge, or if the priest who represents the Lord your God, must be put to death. Such evil must be purged from Israel. Deuteronomy 17:12. Now, a lot of this came out after the 10 Commandments, by the way. So the 10 Commandments came out in the beginning, thou shalt not kill, and the next thing you know, kill non-believers. They entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with their heart and their soul, and everyone who will not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, was put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. 2 Chronicles 15:12-13. When Moses went to the top of the mountain and got the 10 Commandments, he came back down. He didn't like what was going on in his camp, so he started killing everybody. After he got the commandment to not kill, he came back down and started killing everybody. But this is all authorized by the God. Suppose a man or woman among you in one of your towns that the Lord your God is giving you has done evil in the sight of the Lord your God and has violated the covenant by serving other gods or by worshiping the sun, This is what Akhenaten was when he was worshiping the sun god Aten, who is also known as Amun-Ra. So this guy here who's telling this God here is speaking to his people, telling them, look, if you worship my cousin Amun-Ra, you're in trouble. And so he says, for any of the forces of heaven which I have strictly forbidden, when you hear about it, investigate the matter thoroughly. If it is true that this detestable thing has been done in Israel, then that man or woman must be taken to the gates of the town and stoned to death. Deuteronomy 17, 2-5. Marduk is one of the most evil people to ever exist, and that's Amun-Ra. That was the sun god. And so what was happening there was these Anunnaki people, they were arguing and battling each other using human beings as the warriors. And sometimes you would see that the angels, which are really the aliens, would get involved in these battles as well and go to war with the humans. They'd have to put on helmets and breastplates, and they would have to get swords, and they have to go fight. These same angels that the Bible talks about were having sex with women and homosexual sex. They were getting drunk. They were doing partying, all this crazy stuff, right? So that was in the Bible too. So these were not angels, these were aliens, these Anunnaki people working and fighting with human beings for whatever reason. They always wanted to have control over more land, more resources. And these people, these aliens, kept fighting each other using human beings as chattel. If you look into the Indian Vedas, you find that there were these huge flying cities. These huge flying cities, in my opinion, are UFOs. They were flying cities with literally thousands of people in each one of these vessels. And these vessels would go to war above land against each other in plain broad daylight, well documented. These people were warring people and always fighting over more resources, more land, because why? Earth was a breakaway civilization for them. And it was always a consistent battle over control from the very first time they got here. The very first time, the first one who landed here was Alalu. Alalu killed the king on Nibiru and then fled to Earth. And then from Earth, he negotiated back with them a deal that he would have kingship and he would keep his life on Earth as long as he gave them the location of some of the resources and was able to transport resources back to Nibiru, which were greatly needed there. So this story is much bigger than you even think. You don't even come close, most people, to understanding where all this information comes from and what the true information is really all about and what the underlying story is really all about. Who is doing all this killing? I believe it. Everybody thinks it's this creator, that's grand creator, this grand artist. I believe that. But guess what? In that book, that ain't it. That's a murdering, a sadistic, psychopathic, narcissistic murderer. That's what that is. And unfortunately, that has really crept into the DNA and the epigenetics of people on this planet and has us feeding that same garbage into every single one of our generations over and over again. And I'm here to try to stop it. You can believe in a creator of a universe. There's nothing wrong with that. But understand that that is something that doesn't even exist inside this universe. You're not going to interact with, you're not going to walk up and shake hands with this entity. You're not going to hang out and go have a beer at the bar and hang out with prostitutes like Jesus did. You're not going to, have casual conversations about killing people. That's not going to happen. There's no book on this planet that actually, and from ancient texts, that says this is the actual real God. They're all talking about multiple gods with an S, and these gods, they all turn out to be regular old people that put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you and me. People are thinking that human beings are the only people that exist in the universe. Human beings are the new kids on the block, but we are just an offspring or a cousin of the same type of body type that exists throughout the entire universe. Earth is an abandoned seed colony. That's what we are. We're living on an abandoned seed colony, and we are really trying, scratching in the dark, trying to find our way. And a lot of the DNA and genetics that we have from our past generations, also we have the genetics and DNA from the past generations from these same people, these same beings, every single one of us. So who are the aliens? We all are the aliens, every single one of us. As a matter of fact, this planet Earth and the solar system that we're in does not even come from the Milky Way galaxy. Look it up. Earth doesn't come from the Milky Way galaxy. Earth comes from the Sagittarius Dwarf galaxy. Sagittarius Dwarf, not the Sagittarius constellation, but the Sagittarius Dwarf galaxy is another smaller galaxy that's actually merging with the Milky Way. right now as we speak. And we found out we meaning astrophysicists, found out that the point in which the merger actually occurs and actually began is where Earth and our entire solar system was dropped into place, merging into the Milky Way. So this entire solar system is alien to this galaxy. We're not even from this galaxy. We're from a Sagittarius galaxy. We're not even from the Milky Way galaxy. And in 5 billion years, the Milky Way galaxy will merge with the Andromeda galaxy, making us Milkomeda in 5 billion years. And the sky will look again totally different at night. When you look up at the sky in a night that doesn't have any light pollution and you see that swath of stars going across, everybody says that's the Milky Way. We found out that's not the Milky Way galaxy, and now all astrophysics books have already been rewritten. When you go to college and university to study astrophysics, you'll learn now today that that is the Sagittarius dwarf going across the sky, not the Milky Way. All of this comes from a totally different galaxy. So the story is much grander and bigger than you ever thought of, than you can ever possibly even dream if you just go out there and start doing some real research. And when you dig into this Bible and look into who's doing all the killing, you discover that the God of the Bible, which is not the creator of the universe, is the one doing all the killing. Unfortunately, that's the case. And so the true demon, the true darkness, the true dark night, the true evil and malice is coming from the one that you're dropping on your knees and crying to every night. What that does is it allows you to take all your personal responsibility and push it out on something else that doesn't even exist. The way the Bible is written, if you believe that Satan, the devil, and he's got so much power that he's almost as smart as God, right? Used to be on the right hand of God. He has almost the same exact level of power. And he's got all this high IQ in the thousands, probably in the tens of thousands, way smarter than a human being. And you think that this entity is going to follow this book written by men down to the letter until its own demise? Isn't it more obvious that this book has been written to lead human beings down to the letter to their own demise? And that's exactly what's happening. The entity that you're worshiping and praying to and begging and everything else in that book is actually Satan. That's Enlil from the ancient Sumerian tablets, also known as Satan, the Lord of Eden. That's who you've been praying to. That's who you've been begging for help and forgiveness and everything else. The thing about what they've done to human beings is they've got us living such short lives that by the time we realize what's going on, we're already about to die. I think that if people were living for at least 800 years, they'd get to a certain level of understanding where they realize the dogma's gone, the bullcrap is gone, the stupid religions are all gone. It's really all about the internal, the work you do on the inside of yourself and how you connect directly from the inside out to the universe and how loving you can be and how much you can help people and how you can help bring heaven to earth. How can you create your own heaven right here where you're at? That's really the ultimate mission. The mission is to learn how to live now. Complete the mission here first. This is the mission right now. Bringing heaven to earth and living right now. Man, life is good. Every single day. When you come to that realization that you have a part controlling your own destiny, that you can do the inner work and create the outer work, the inner work will reflect on the outside, that you can become a master at manifesting, that you can learn how to help millions of people through conscious thoughts, that you can travel in time and see the future and do actions here today that will alter the future reality in the third dimension. That's when you are on to something, and that your consciousness is already divine being streamed into this dimension from higher dimensions.
Jesus taught reincarnation and meditation. The more we read the Emerald Tablets, we realize readily that the connection between Thoth and Jesus is there. Where does the term matrix come from? The term matrix comes from the Bible. The flight into Egypt is a biblical event described in Matthew 2:13 through 23. The Magi learned that King Herod intended to murder the infants within that area, and soon after, Joseph saw an angel in a dream which told him to flee to Egypt with Mary and his infant son, Jesus, also known as the accurate name, Yeshua. I'm using Jesus in the book because it relates to people's minds a little bit easier, but we know it's actually Yeshua. This is a very important statement here because we know that in Matthew, all of a sudden, Jesus disappears from the Gospels at the age of 12. Where does he go? We know that he goes to Egypt because the Bible says he did. And guess what we find in Egypt? We find that Jesus was actually there. Not only was he there, but we know that the house he lived in still stands. It's a shrine now in Coptic Cairo. This person, this entity, really did exist in the physical form. It wasn't just some kind of thought thing. It wasn't, no, it was real. This was a real person. For those of you who were wondering, this was a real person that existed with flesh and blood. He put on his pants one leg at a time, just like we did. Pretty interesting. Now, he was a virgin birth. How do we know about the time he spent in Egypt? Well, there's this book called The Gospel of the Holy 12. And I have these Gospels as well. They're very little known, hard to find gospel, the Gospel of the Holy 12. What's interesting is these scriptures were omitted from the Bible. These verses, they were left out. It tells you of Jesus, where he was and where he went when he disappeared from the biblical text at the age of 12 to 32. He went to Egypt to learn what? The Egyptian mysteries. From who? Who was the original creator of the mystery schools? Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. This could be why, when you see as I go through this, his words are extremely similar to those words of Thoth written in what? In the Emerald Tablets, the same words that are recorded by him as him speaking in the New Testament of the Bible. Pretty interesting. He then leaves out of Egypt as he gets a little older, and he goes up into Tibet. What does he go to Tibet to do? He goes to learn Reiki healing and Qigong healing with his hands and his body, and energetic, how to move energy throughout the body, which is confirmed by the Dalai Lama. In modern times, the newest Dalai Lama has confirmed this. And then he heads down into India to learn the mystic arts and teaching reincarnation all the way back down into Egypt. Then at the age of 32, the Bible picks up again and says, I call my son out of Egypt. And then he turns up in Jerusalem riding in the back of a donkey, right? Not everybody knows the story because not everybody is studied like they're supposed to. The Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Gnostic texts, such as the first Apocalypse of James, which you probably never heard of, were likely banned because of their different understanding of Jesus' importance. They understood Jesus much more in terms of being a revealer of human wisdom, explains Brent Landau, a religious studies lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin, who presented the findings at the Society of Biblical Literature annual meeting in Boston, November 2017. The first Apocalypse of James manuscript is from the Nag Hammadi Library at Oxford University. These are the living quarters, the former living quarters of Jesus, aka Yeshua. These images and photos were taken by me on my own camera. Many believe the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are the source of material for the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. If you read the Apocrypha text, you will find out that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries and he taught reincarnation and meditation. Yes, Jesus taught reincarnation and meditation. You have to read the Apocrypha text. If you read the Apocrypha text, you'll find out that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries. He taught reincarnation and meditation. I know this to be true because on my last trip to Cairo, that's me, I visited the Coptic church where Jesus and his mother lived while there. They lived under the church in the basement. The Council of Nicaea in 325 AD omitted that information from the canonized Bible. I have included photos that I took in May 2014 of the living place of Jesus and his mother in Egypt, which you just saw those photos. It is still kept as a memorial until now. The biblical story of the birth of Jesus is about the sun and planetary alignments. The real person named Yeshua, aka Jesus, is actually Thoth, or the son of Thoth. Jesus' grandmother, Mary's mother, is also a virgin birth. They didn't teach you that in Bible study, did they? You discover this when you do deeper research. And so why would the mother of Mary be a virgin birth? It seems as if someone was establishing a particular bloodline. We know that bloodline to be the Merovingian bloodline, the bloodline of Christ. That bloodline is still walking that planet till this very day. And I'll get to that in a second. Now, when you take a woman and you insert an egg into her womb at the right time, it's called creating a zygote and then doing in vitro fertilization. You can then create a baby growing in that womb with no sexual intercourse. This is not the first time it's happened in ancient texts. There's an ancient text that goes even further back in Sumeria, where Isis takes an egg out of a woman, puts the egg, adds some genetic material to it, puts the egg in her own womb, takes it to term for 10 months and gives birth to Adamu, which means first man. In some cases, they call him Adapa, but it's Adamu or Adapa, doesn't matter. It both means first man. This is in vitro fertilization happening in ancient tablets. Why would they make this stuff up if it didn't really happen? At that time, Isis created the first Adam, not the first human. There were already people here, according to the tablets. But the most perfected version of a Homo sapiens sapien came out of her womb, which starts the generations of Isis, the Genesis, the Genesis. Many people believe that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are the source material for the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. If you read the Apocrypha text, you will discover that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries and he taught reincarnation and meditation. And so when you go in here, it says, I have included photos, which I showed you before. There's more photos in the book. You can check it out in my book. But here's where it gets really important. In this chapter, I will establish the true source of the teachings of Jesus. It appears that most of his biblical teachings and statements come directly from the Emerald Tablets. This also points to the possibility that Jesus may be Thoth or the son of Thoth. Right here, you see this labyrinth. This image that you're looking at right here before I get into the text, this was discovered underneath the sands at Giza, where the Great Pyramid is located. The lost labyrinth of Egypt is without a doubt one of those incredible ancient sites that are a lost jewel in today's history. These are the halls of Amenti located underneath the Great Pyramid, the same halls of Amenti that Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets that he built underneath the Great Pyramid. Well, they were discovered a few years ago. They're there. Thoth says, not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Now, the halls of Amenti is a place where, according to Thoth, he would have these bodies inside of these rejuvenation chambers, and he would transfer his consciousness into new bodies so he can walk amongst men, but unlike a man. Jesus says in the New Testament, the book of John 7:38, he that believes in me, out of his being shall flow the river of living water. Halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally. Same exact statement. It's the same exact statement. There's no difference there. Not one difference. 100 times 10 have I descended in the dark way that led to light. And as many times as I have ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power have been renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. Understand here that the men of Chem refers to the people of Egypt, because Kemet is ancient Egypt. Yet notice that we get our word alchemy from this Egyptian name. There are other interesting statements made by the writer Thoth. He says that he descended into the halls of Amenti, where there are regeneration chambers. Certainly, we can understand the concept of cellular regeneration. He says he has spent a total of 10,000 years, because he says he's done it 100 times 10, regenerating his avatar over the course of many eons. Thoth also refers to the river of life, stating, I began this incarnation from eon to eon, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Remember how Jesus makes the same reference in John 7:38. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture said, rivers of living water shall flow from within. The more we read the Emerald Tablets, we realize readily that the connection between Thoth and Jesus is there. I believe that this is very possible, and they are one in the same. That's my own hypothesis. But in the time yet unborn will I rise again, Thoth says, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Another interesting statement made by Thoth many thousands of years before Jesus tells his disciples that he will rise again. It's interesting that Jesus says the same thing in Mark 9:31. If ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north, to the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely I will return again, and require of thee that which ye guard. I, even from beyond time, from beyond death will I return, rewarding or punishing as ye have requited your trust. In the biblical text of John 14:20, Jesus declares to his followers, I go away and come again unto you. Tell no one, the Son of Man be risen again. Now, here's interesting. Jesus calls himself numerous times the Son of Man in the biblical text. What does Thoth call himself in the Emerald Tablets? He calls himself the Son of Atlantis, and he also calls himself the Son of Man many, many times. Interesting. They both call themselves Son of Man. Thoth says, for surely I will come again, betray not my secrets. The Bible also teaches of a judgment day. Everyone, the still living and resurrected dead, will face God's judgment. Even those who profess Christianity will find judgment through the deeds they have done in life. According to Matthew 7:21 through 23 and Corinthians 5:10, those who have lived righteous lives will be granted eternal life, Those who have lived evil lives will be condemned to eternal punishment. This record appears in several biblical passages, including Matthew 5:29 through 30, 25 through 31 through 25, 31 through 46, and Mark 9:43 through 48. Again, these statements are very reminiscent of the same things stated by Thoth over 36,000 years ago. Did Jesus Christ, sometimes referred to as Yeshua, teach reincarnation? The answer is yes, he taught reincarnation. Additionally, reincarnation appears in the Old Testament. Read the last words of the Old Testament in the book of Malachi. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. He shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Here God is speaking through Malachi. That's Malachi 4:5 through 6. He was a famous prophet, often quoted by great leaders throughout history, including U.S. presidents, Donald Trump and many others, and actually saying Elijah is going to come again. Now we find that Jesus making the same statement. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, among them that are born of women, that there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist, notwithstanding, he that is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Matthew 11:11. We're talking about a person who's coming, who's here, dies in some form or way, and it comes back again within the same time frame as a different person, still having the same attributes. We're talking about a form of reincarnation, or are they just changing bodies like Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets? Then he says, and if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come, Matthew 11:14, meaning his coming was prophesied. Therefore, Jesus said he came, they did with him what they could, and so they will have to do me. And we're talking about the fact that this guy came and he came back again. And Jesus is saying the same thing's going to happen to me. I'm going to get killed and then I'm going to come back again. Are we just going to keep coming? How are they coming back? What are they coming? How are they doing this? Could it be some form of technology that we're not familiar with? Spiritual technology? Could it be that they are really using what Thoth talked about in the Emerald Tablets? We know that Jesus was teaching reincarnation nonstop in the Gospel of the Holy 12, and also in the biblical text. When you really analyze what he's been saying, he's talking about coming back over and over again in the third dimension, in a body. Scriptures concerning the coming again of Elijah flow so prominently through the Bible that anyone can accept the fact that they appear within the context of an already established canon. If reincarnation is so important, why is it not taught in the West? Some religious leaders have attempted to control people using fear tactics by saying, you know, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to go to hell, which we know is added to the Bible by the Catholic Church. I think the early church fathers feared that if people understood reincarnation, they wouldn't go to church, but would just have a hand at the Father and say, well, I'll go into my next life. Right? People will be like, hey, you know, I messed up here. Let me start fresh again. The Apostle Paul teaches the Corinthians, we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, we're talking about the avatar body, right? That is when we die and leave this earthly body. We will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God himself and not by human hands. We grow weary in our present bodies and we long to put our heavenly bodies on like new clothing. This is biblical text I'm reading. For we will put on heavenly bodies. We will not be spirits without bodies. This is the Bible. We will not be spirits without bodies. We're talking about physical bodies. We're talking about physical form. People saying, oh, we're going to this place and it's going to be, no, you're coming back in a body, a physical body. While we live in these earthly bodies, we groan. It is not that we want to die and get rid of these bodies that clothe us. Rather, we want to put on our new bodies so that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. 2 Corinthians 5:1. There's more teaching of reincarnation in the biblical text than anything. The idea that John had been Elias, so John had been two different people within a certain period of time. he was one person died, he came back as another person. And that the prophets could relive again on earth is to be found in many passages of the New Testament, but is most notably quoted in Matthew 16:13 through 17, Luke 9:7 through 9, and Matthew 17:10 through 13. If this is an erroneous belief, Jesus would have combated it and did many others. as did many others. But from this, he gave complete sanction and authority by making it a basic principle of necessary condition, by adding, no one may reach the kingdom of God if he is not born again, in John 3:3. Furthermore, insisting such, when he added in John 3:7, do not be surprised when I say it is necessary to be born again. Born again. Where does the term matrix come from? The term matrix comes from the Bible. That comes from the biblical text. Matter of fact, let me pull it up right quick. Exodus 13:12, thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast. The male shall be the Lord's. All right, Exodus 13:15. Here goes another one. Exodus 34:19. All that openeth the matrix is mine, every firstling among thy cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is the male. Here's an interesting verse though. Numbers 3:12. And I behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix. Among the children of Israel, therefore the Levites shall be mine. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The matrix is all throughout the Bible. The Bible also says in here that you must be born through the matrix, because the matrix is a womb. What are we talking about? We're talking about being born again, which you've heard me talk about many, many times. You must be born again. And it ain't becoming born again by praying to some exterior deity and begging him to forgive you of your sins. It comes through raising your level of consciousness to a higher level and realizing that you've grown consciously to another level and looking back on your previous level and saying, wow, I've been born again. And you'll be born again many, many times within this same lifetime, as I always say. Keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light. Now, Thoth is actually Enki. That's his father. Thoth is the Sumerian god Enki. Also in John 12:36 records the words of Jesus, believe in the light that you might be the children of light. Why is he saying the same exact thing from the Emerald Tablets? Slightly differently, but the same exact meaning, the same exact thing. It's because either Thoth is, Jesus and Thoth are the same person, or Jesus is some way a bloodline, because we know of this virgin birth, like I said earlier, to establish a bloodline. Mary then gives a virgin birth. The grandmother gives a virgin birth. The grandmother was a virgin birth. Then Mary comes, right? Then Jesus is now a virgin birth. What is this bloodline being established, and why? Is someone using the same technique that Isis used in the Sumerian tablets to create a bloodline so that Yeshua could come through that specific line? Is this an experimental way of coming back as a human being through the womb instead of becoming a fully formed grown man every time you reincarnate? Because Thoth claimed to have the power to reincarnate at will. Did he utilize a particular technique to come through the womb of a woman, a human, and then regain all of his memories and grow up more potent and more powerful? Or was Jesus simply a student of Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, of his ancient mystery schools when he went to Egypt to learn the Egyptian mysteries, according to the Gospels of the Holy 12? It's a conundrum. It's either one of the two, because the Emerald Tablets is 36,000 years old, and then Jesus is saying all the stuff that's being said in here over and over again. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's my question.
Let's take a look at this Yahweh guy. It's Jehovah. So they pray to Jehovah. This is their main God. Jehovah, that's the name of their religion. Jehovah Witness, right? Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's apostrophe S, Jehovah's Witness is the name of their religion. Let's take a look at who this guy really, really is. And I do mean guy. I mean man. Jehovah is not a God that created universes and planets and all this kind of stuff. So if you look at the word Yahweh, which is we know is Enlil in the modern day Bible, according to the Sumerian tablets, which predates the Bible by thousands of years, it comes from the word Yahu, which is Assyrian, and Yahweh in German is Jehovah. And so they took the German version of Yahweh. And how do I know this? Because during the World War, the Jehovah Witnesses were in full support of Nazi Germany. They even wrote in their personal, they have a book that the elders books, they have a book that they read that they go by. It's like the Elders Bible. And in there, they were making appeasements for Germany and saying and hoping that their mission goes right, and they
blessed them with the love of God and everything else on what they were doing over there in Nazi Germany. And so they took the German version of Yahweh, which is Jehovah. So Jehovah, which or actually really is Jehovah, is really what it is, Jehovah, because the J really is it sounds a Y sound. But regardless, it became Jehovah in America. And so Jehovah is actually Enlil. So the power of Yahu in Akkadian, by the time of the return of the Babylonian exiles in the 530s BC, Yahweh was treated as a deity name in its own right. Akkadian grammar was apparently forgotten by those in Israel, and Yahweh is actually mistranslated in the English Hebrew scriptures as Lord. The word Lord is coming from a mistranslated word of Yahweh, which is actually a person, not a God. You see how this whole thing is screwed up for the Christians and the Jehovah Witnesses? The whole thing is convoluted garbage. So you see here, to write this image, Hebrew reads from right to left, and transliterated into English, it's Yahweh or Yahweh, Jehovah. But you see the J is actually supposed to be silent. In America, we've already incorporated the sound of the J, so we call it Jehovah, but it's really Jehovah. So now, according to the Sumerian text, Enki, also known as Satan, so his brother, he's not really Satan, but his brother is really Satan. Enlil is really Satan, but Enlil didn't want to scare the people and make them think he was the evil one. So what he started doing was blaming everything on his brother Enki. And he even though Enlil was Satan, the Lord of Eden, he started saying, no, he's my brother. He's the one that's actually the evil one. He's Satan, not me. So he can keep the people worshiping him. But according to Sumerian text, Enki, aka Satan, created man and animals. He didn't create man and animals in the Sumerian tablets. That's a little bit of a I should have said something like he used genetic techniques to modify existing animals and hominids on this planet. Okay, he didn't make anything from scratch. Nothing was made from scratch here. His brother Enlil created the earth and sky. Now, he didn't create the earth and sky, and this is the part of the mythological version. But what he did was he utilized his understanding of seed planting, and he utilized his understanding of weather patterns and weather control. It's talked about in the Sumerian tablets. He would control the weather and dry crops out amongst high multitudes of humans to make them starve to death. So this guy had the power over weather and everything. Okay, pretty interesting stuff. A rift came between them, so him and his brother started having a lot of arguments, kind of like Cain and Abel from the Bible, Esau and Jacob. And although Satan, aka Enki, was the eldest of the brothers, their father was a chief Sumer god. Their father was Anu. That's where you get the term Anunnaki. Their father's name was Anu. But eventually Yahweh would rule over both earth and its creation. And what happened there, if you look in the Sumerian pantheon, they ruled by a number system. Okay, they had a number system. And even though Enki's number was higher than his brother Enlil, for whatever reason, which is not clear, it never is really said why or how this happened. Maybe Enki relinquished the right to be the king of earth, but Enlil superseded him and became the king of the earth and ran the show here for quite some time. Each brother was considered an immortal, and therefore, if you wanted to hurt the other, you would not fight each other, as it would make no sense. So they wouldn't fight, because fighting each other would make no sense, because they had the technology to cure and heal each other. So what they would do is they would attack each other's things, like their land, the people that they ruled over, the structures that they built, and so forth and so on. That's how they hurt each other. And their father got pissed off and said, look, you go to this side, you go over here. You guys stay away from each other and just do your own separate thing. But this is where Jehovah comes from. Jehovah is actually coming from the ancient Akkadian and Babylonian cuneiform tablets, thousands of years prior to the existence of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the person that they're praying to, and I do mean person that they're praying to, is one of the most evil killing rulers of all time. He would kill humans for fun. Okay. Later in the Akkadian version of the flood story, recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is a famous read, it's the true full story of Noah's Ark. Enlil, who's actually, like I said, Jehovah, actually causes the flood. He actually causes the flood in the cuneiform tablets, seeking to annihilate every living thing on earth because he got tired of the humans who were so overpopulated they were making too much noise. He actually says this in the tablets. The humans are making too much noise. I just want to kill them. They're disturbing my sleep. He would kill thousands of humans at a time just because they were too loud for him. This is who Jehovah's Witnesses are praying to. Where can you find out more about this guy? The Atrahasis. Okay, let's look at some of the things that Jehovah was doing on earth back in the day. Let's see what the Jehovah was doing. The Jehovah Witness. Sometimes I go walking down the beach in Fort Lauderdale, and from time to time, and I walk the beach, and from time to time, there's zealots out there. You know, the people with the megaphones and everything else, and the Bible thumpers that are out there with the books trying to stop you to reel you in and try to get you to using dogma to try to get you to commit to their belief system, and so they can bring more money into that temple that they're part of. It's really come down to it. They don't realize that's what they're doing, but it's all about recruiting money. It's all about obtaining funding for the business. And so they're the grunt workers of the business. They don't really understand exactly what they're doing. They think that they're doing it for the greater good, but what they're doing is they're doing it for the pockets of somebody or some bodies at the very, very top. And so one day I was walking down the beach, and the Jehovah's Witnesses were out there, and the lady stops me. Usually I just continued. I said, not today, and I just keep walking. But this time I just stopped, right? This one particular time. And the lady starts asking me, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and so forth and so on? I said, no. She said, why not? I said, because I'm already God. I'm already divine. Divine runs through every single atom inside of it, makes up my entire body. And my consciousness comes already from higher dimensions, which what you might call heaven. And the lady's eyes get all big and bugged out and everything. And so she still wants to sell me and everything. So she starts giving me her sales pitch for the Jehovah's Witness. And I said to her, I said, I don't want to interrupt you, ma'am. I don't want to be rude. But if you can answer a few questions about your religion, then I'll listen to everything you have to say. And so I said to her, when was the Watchtower Society formed? When was it formed? What year? What year was it formed? And she was like, what year was it formed? I said, yeah, what year was the Watchtower Society formed? The original one, before it got incorporated. She didn't know the answer. I said, wow, that was 1881. That was Zion's Watchtower Tract Society. And they were distributing these religious tracts, like you're handing out your information now, these watchtowers, the same exact thing, but in the 1800s. She was like, oh, wow, really? I said, yeah, you didn't know that, did you? But I said, how long have you been doing this? All my life, she says. She was born into that religion. I said, you've been into this your entire life and you didn't know that? She goes, no. I said, when did they formally incorporate? What year and what state? She goes, I'm sorry, I don't know that either. I said, wow. Well, that was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that was in 1884. And that's when the Watchtower Society actually formally incorporated. And I said, ma'am, you have to understand, you're out here preaching this to people and trying to get people to join your, religious system. And you don't really even fully, totally understand exactly what you're talking about because you haven't done any research to figure out exactly where the origins or the start of this come from. And that's just the beginning stages of it. I mean, the information that you guys are talking about is coming out of even more ancient texts. She was completely flabbergasted, didn't have any idea or answer or whatever. And it was just a shame to see that somebody is believing that what they're doing is going to lead them to complete immortality and complete salvation. And in true reality, it's just leading them into a dirty, dark dungeon, a consciousness prison. And so that's what we have to be careful of with these religious dogmas and people that become zealots. So let's take a look at this. She did know the name of Charles Taze Russell. So that was okay. At least she did know that. That's the guy who basically was the president of the Watchtower Society in 1884 to 1916. And he was the founder of the Bible student movement. A lot of the works that this guy did really became the foundation of Jehovah's Witnesses. He didn't create Jehovah's Witnesses. That's not really how it happened. But he created the foundation. And from that foundation, others came after him and it evolved into the Jehovah's Witness sect. But Pastor Russell was an American Christian restorationist minister from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the founder of what is now known as the Bible Student Movement after his death, and Jehovah's Witnesses and numerous independent Bible student groups developed from his base. They actually started from his work. His work catapulted a couple of different religions that popped out. A lot of them, the other ones, they kind of faded out, but Jehovah's Witnesses, they actually stuck. And the reason why they stuck is because they mastered how to indoctrinate people through fear. And those who maintained fellowship with the Watchtower Society after Russell's death adopted the name Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931. So Jehovah's Witness, that actual term, that name, that actual, religion, officially became that title and that name in 1931. Before then, it wasn't. But they're working off of the basis of this guy here, Charles Taze Russell. Now, what's interesting is they took the Bible and they rewrote it and edited it and flipped it around and remixed things around to suit their own benefit and their own needs and what they want to accomplish and what their agenda was. And so they call it the New World Transliteration or New World's Translation, depending on which book you have in your hand, of the Holy Scriptures. And the Witnesses have their own translation of the Bible. So they have completely edited this thing and moved words around and moved phrases around and changed things in and out. It doesn't match some of the original canonized versions of the Bible, which is not a big surprise because the Sinai Bible is different from the King James Bible and so forth and so on. The Ethiopian Bible is different from the other two. And so I guess these people said, look, everybody else did it. We're going to remix it too. Let's go ahead and remix this thing. So they remixed the Bible, right? Set it up to where it's a complete neuroscientific book, basically predicated on hitting people that are susceptible to fanaticism, reeling them in, and milking them dry for all of their energy and their money. And that's pretty much what they did. And so the New World Holy Translation of the Holy Scriptures is also referred to in the New Testament as the Christian Greek Scriptures, and they call the Old Testament the Hebrew Scriptures. They really did a lot of incredible tweaking of this book to get it to where they have it right now today. So what's their belief system, their fundamental belief systems? So this is the whole Jehovah's Witnesses Bible. Witnesses hold a number of traditional Christian views, but also many that are unique only to them. They affirm that God, aka Jehovah, and we're going to talk about who this Jehovah really is in a minute. We're going to get into Jehovah really deep, is the Most High. Okay, so they're saying that Jehovah is the Most High. Jehovah is everything. Jehovah is God. He's the creator of everything, creator of the heavens and earth. Again, another attribution to a gender as well, by the way. They always call Jehovah a he, a him, a male. Okay, that's always a dead giveaway when somebody's calling a spiritual being by a gender. I don't want to be involved in it. Jesus Christ is God's agent. He's an agent for God. He's an agent, like Agent Smith in the Matrix. He's an agent now, through whom sinful humans. So you're sinful. Right away, you're already bad. You're bad immediately. You're born bad. Through whom sinful humans can be reconciled to God.
By Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson.